Hello, welcome to our Heritage Works. Today, we're making red beans and rice. For today's red beans and rice, I'm going to start with some ham stock. Now, I happen to have some already frozen, so all I'm going to do is dump it out, and I'm going to heat it up while I'm chopping up vegetables and those type of things. While the ham stock is thawing out, I've got it on the stove. The recipe I have calls for 2 cups of seasoning mix. Now that seasoning mix is actually our vegetables. And what I'm going to be using is celery, bell pepper, onion, and parsley. Now it doesn't tell me exactly what ratio, but I'm going to be using some of my freeze-dried celery. I'll just spoon some of that out, put it in, call it good. I've got a homegrown red bell pepper, so I'll chop some of it up. I've got a nice small onion here, and then I've got some dried parsley flakes, so I'll be using those. So to start with, I'm going to go ahead and do the celery. I'm going to cut right here along this line. I don't know that you'll be able to see that very well, but that's where the seal's at. My goal is to cut just below that so that I can put this back in the machine and seal it back up. That worked fairly well. And I will be using more of the stock than it calls for, and that's so that the celery has a chance to rehydrate. On the parsley, again, this is dried, so I'm not quite sure how much I'm going to use, but that looks pretty good to me. For the peppers and the onion, I'm going to do them separately as far as putting them in a bowl. The reason I'm doing that is because I'm going to eventually chop these. I'm going to put these in a pot with a little bit of butter and saute them. So when I do that, I don't want to put the dry ingredients in right at that same time. They're just not going to do as well. I may take some of the stock as soon as it's ready, put it on top of the celery and the parsley just to start the rehydrating process. So as you can see, all I'm doing is doing thin cuts. Then I'll come back through and again do some nice thin cuts. Before I started, I sharpened my knife. The key to not crying when you do onions is to have a very, very sharp knife. Again, I'm going to slice vertically down through the onion. This is to the width that I need them. I like them very, very small for dishes like this. So that way, by the time we're ready to eat them, they've pretty much disintegrated into almost nothing. And then you get the full effect of them, but you don't have the extra crunch or the extra bite that some people don't like. Now onto the pepper. So this particular pepper has a small spot on the bottom. I'll just be sure to cut around that. Again, I'm going to cut these into very small dices, into a small dice. The reason is the same as the onion. I want them to all but disappear. I'd like to take a moment to thank everyone that has come over from other channels. Recently, I've had people come over from Joey G's Gluten Free. Thank you very much. I've also had people come over from the Allergy Dragon. So if you're from one of those wonderful channels, thank you very much for joining us. If you just stumbled across it, be sure to like and subscribe to this channel. And want to say welcome to everyone. Okay. Now, one of the things you're going to notice is this white rib here. I'm just going to rub my knife along the edge of the meat here just to take that out. That white area is bitter. It's better to lose a little bit of the pepper and not have that bitter taste. So as you can see, I've tried to chop these fairly small, and I will take care of to get all of these little pieces that I can. All of that is goodness that we will want in our final dish. Some other items that we need to make our red beans and rice, of course, is red beans. Now, normally I would like to do these from scratch, but I'm using a canned variety today just because that's what I have and I don't have time for soaking. I did also add 1 can of kidney beans. While not traditional, I've seen several recipes that do call for kidney beans. So I'm adding them in just because I wanted beans available for our dinner tonight. Now, another thing that we need will be some butter. This butter is going to be used for sauteing our onions and our peppers. We will also be using a Creole seasoning. Now, this is some that I made recently, and this is to taste. My particular brand, again, I made, but it has no salt in it. I want to be able to control the salt completely on my own. Recipe does call for salt, that is to taste. I doubt if I will add any at all to my dish because we're watching our sodium. Also to taste is pepper. I use white pepper instead of black pepper or green pepper. The reason I do that is because it has less oxalates in it, and I have to watch my oxalates. We will also use bay leaves and some garlic. Now the garlic, obviously we're not going to throw it in like this. We're going to chop it up real fine like we did the onions. And this little tube here, got the idea from Living Traditions Homestead, another YouTube channel. But they had one and it takes the peel right off. All you do is stick it in there, roll, and off it comes. Now all I have to do is chop this up. I will be adding the bay leaves to the beans because that's how they're going to be added to the pot. I'm going to put the garlic in its own container. It'll be added shortly after the other vegetables are added in, but I don't want to add them in at the exact same time because then they will have a chance to burn, and I don't want to do that. We're also going to need some sort of meat to put in this. The meat of choice today is andouille sausage. So all I'm going to do is take it out and cut it up into small slices so that it'll be bite-sized, ready to go inside the red beans. I'm just going to do small slices. I might even go back through and cut these in half, though typically you see it kept in these pepperoni-shaped slices. Okay, now that I've got this all chopped up, I can finish cleaning up. So as a review, we have some ham stock on the stove thawing out. It had been frozen. I also have some Creole seasoning. This is homemade. I have some salt, which will be to taste. Some white pepper, again, to taste. So is the Creole seasoning. Those are all to taste. We have onion, bell pepper, parsley, celery, and again, the celery has been freeze-dried. We have some butter, we have some garlic, andouille sausage, red beans, and some bay leaves. I will be making rice later, and the rice that we'll be making is jasmine rice, and I'll put that in the electric pressure cooker and cooking it that way. It's nice, quick, and easy, and I'll do that just before we're ready to serve the meal. First thing we need to do is to cook the andouille. This will take about 5 minutes. Our goal here is just to get it good and brown. At the end of the 5 minutes, we'll take it out and keep it warm while we prepare some of the vegetables in those types. As you can hear, the sausage is browning nicely. Instead of removing the sausage, I'm going to add the pepper and the onions directly to this with the butter, and we'll get that going. Then we'll add in the garlic, and then finally we'll add in the broth and the rest of the vegetables and get this going. Vegetables, it's the onion and bell pepper. The onions are almost translucent now. I'm going to go ahead and add in the dry herbs. Give that a quick stir. And then I'm going to add some of the stock that's been heating on the stove. I'm trying to do two things right here. I want to deglaze the pan just a little bit. And I want to give enough moisture for the celery and the parsley to rehydrate. At this point, I can add in the beans and the rest of the broth, as well as the bay leaf. Give this a quick stir. Get everything incorporated. And now we can get some of the stock in there. At this point, we're going to let the the beans come to a boil. We'll let them boil for about half an hour just to make sure that everything's getting cooked all the way through. Then we will simmer it and just let it sit there for about an hour, maybe two, just sitting there, allowing all of those flavors to come together.